You have children being born 8 or 9 at a time. You have more money spent on a single Hollywood movie than some nations can spend feeding their starving people. Torture, distrust. Look around you, it's overwhelming. What can you contribute? Every day I look in the mirror and I hold this comic up to the mirror. I look into the mirror and this unique comics. Thankful. As a reminder, be respectful. I respect you. You are fragile. Where will those pieces go? Ask this question. Will you ask? Humankind is only as great as you. The individual. It begins and ends with you. You must treat this expedition, this search, this life with a reverence and intensity found only in the smallest sticks, the littlest leaf, the tiniest stone, the most minuscule grain of sand on a beach of billions. This is the secret. Do you want to know where the pipe is going? You ask yourself. You ask. You ask. Now where could my pipe be? But I was a young man. Remember now, I first saw this comic when I was 18 years old, ages ago. But I was youthful. For weeks I denied that a comic was having such a profound effect on me. I was much like John Arbuckle. In this middle panel, he says, where can my pipe be? You can look into his eyes, his half-lowered eyes, and think to yourself, now, surely, John, surely you can't. This is nothing new for you. And if you've read more of the Garfield comic strips by Jim Davis, you'd understand what I am saying now. Garfield the cat does things like this all the time. He will take things from John. Food, items, anything. This is his very nature. So you see this, you want to say, John Arbuckle, come now. You are lying to yourself. You are lying to yourself and to all of us. You pretend to have not any idea what it's like. You're not so forgetful. You are lying to yourself. Yes. You are lying to yourself. You know this dark. Somewhere deep down you know this. You don't even need to think the question. And that was me myself. 1 week passed, and each morning I opened my door and slammed it shut again. I would go to look at the comic. And think, oh no, I don't need to look at it. But there I was, lying to myself. I did need to see it. And so I did. It's... Give in, that is the transition from the second panel of life to the third panel of life. It is a simple story structure, the passage from the second act to the third. The twilight of things. He knows the truth. He's always known the truth. He yells out, Garfield, Garfield, Garfield! It is like pressure from a steam valve being released. The buildup is unbearable, and then it's gone. So it is like this. When I speak about the truth, the light, the radiance, this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. This is the essence of this brilliant work of art. The practical mix and agreeing with the spiritual, it is all here. But spirituality is not an easy thing to confront. You might find yourself able to wrap your mind around a simple math problem or a basic newspaper article, but intellect is much less subjective. Spirituality. And how have I found spiritual peace? It's really a long time ago. as I mentioned before, soul searching. When something impacts you or alters your very perception so greatly, there's a long period of confusion and recovery time. It's as if you don't know who you are, and that can be a very scary prospect, especially if you thought you had a good grasp on that sort of thing. Imagine if Jim Davis didn't know who he was, capable of shaping the cultural landscape as he's done? No, of course he wouldn't. And how about his characters? John. What if Jim Davis suddenly woke up and didn't know who John was? What if he couldn't make the informed decisions to accurately depict Garfield's personality? He could no longer specify or demarcate the outlines of Garfield's behavior. What kind of comic would that be? So draw the parallel. I saw this comic, and yes, I was disoriented. And if I couldn't reconcile this issue with myself, what kind of person would I be? Undoubtedly dire circumstances. Remember, this was not a math problem. This was not an article. This was not something I could just figure out. And as skeptical as I was, I realized that faith and spirituality required. At first I tried long nights, aromatic meditation settings while thinking of God. Nothing snapped. Nothing clicked. I still felt lost. But I kept it up. I hired a shaman and a young personal yogi Sikh guru, Avram Dav Singh Sahib. I pushed and pushed, determined to find myself. Upon retrieving my morning paper to clip the Garfield comic, I noticed a young girl selling lemonade 2 houses down. She sat occupied at her stall. She had no customers in sight, so I approached and saw that she was coloring. I looked at her drawing. 3 rectangular boxes, a man in a blue shirt, an orange cat. I knew what this was. With crude scribbles, I knew exactly what this was. She was drawing a Garfield comic. I looked at her words and I saw that in her script, John asked Garfield to retrieve a newspaper. Funny, since I've done just that for myself. Garfield is sarcastic, but pleased to. He returns and John exclaims that the paper is all chewed up, but then Garfield says, and I quote, Sahib asks fish, paper is wet. Sahib asks cat, paper is home. Back at my house, I thought, how odd that Sahib shows up in the strip, and my spiritual advisor's name is Avram Dav Singh Sahib. Coincidence, surely, but nonetheless, I spent the next 16 hours pouring through my Garfield comics, looking for the script this young girl had been coloring. Couldn't find it. I eventually fell asleep right on my kitchen table. The next morning, I retrieved my paper again, and I clipped the Garfield comic. The date was July 12th, 1983, and there it was. In all its glory. The girl had been drawn the next day's script. Well, I ran right out of my house. I ran back to where she was, but she was gone, and in place of the lemonade stand was a for sale sign. I rushed back to my house to call Avram, but I was informed that he'd moved away as well. I was it all connected for me. It was meant to be. It was meant to be this way. Jim Davis. It was always meant to be this way for me. They move to the forefront and everything else fades away. Everything else, the girl, the lemonade stand, Avram's dog, all existed to show me the way, and when I found the way, everything else melted away. It was a beautiful miracle. And in July 1978, the day I first saw the pipe strip, the first day of my life, and that day, July 12th, 1983, was the second day of my life. I've never looked back. Garfield has transformed me. because of Garfield. When I was in my mid-30s, I was interviewed for a documentary. It was a documentary on the subject of cat. Now, time for the documentary interview, I had 4 cats. I sat down for the interview and was joined by a veterinarian who specialized in feline. Dr. Carolyn Lopez was her name, I believe. And the doctor discussed color blindness in animals and how it affects their behavior. She specifically brought up the fact that cats are green colorblind. They can see colors, but they can't tell the difference between red and green. Look at the color choice in this strip. Garfield sits on a green floor behind a pinkish red wall. I heard this and I immediately pulled a copy of the comic from my wall and showed the doctor. It moved so fast, I'm sure I nearly scared her. I pointed at the paper and said, like this, look, at this here, this cat, Garfield, he's colorblind, he must be. That must be the answer here. Like this. As overexcited as I was, I managed to take in her response. She said, yes, a cat in this room would have a hard time differentiating the wall from the floor. Someone particularly perceptive will have picked up on it. Is Garfield's behavior symbolic of the devil, the evil constructs in the world? Also, it is rooted in science and scientific fact. Look at it. You cannot spell fact without a cat. Just a little joke there. Just some wordplay, but getting back on track. And you can't spell track without cat. Okay. I digress. I gotcha. Enough kidding around. It is established here that Garfield is in a rage, an ultimate rage of fury and hatred caused by colorblindness. We know the what, we know the why, but let us examine the how. The how of his rage is particularly interesting here. We've looked at his posture and called it powerful, in control, statuesque, etc., etc. Composed rage. It's peculiar, and I've talked to a number of psychologists and psychiatrists and even a couple of anger management therapists about this concept. Could we see the same kind of behavior in a human? Is Garfield representative of something more specific than just chaos and rage? Deciphering this is going to take some perseverance for sure. The psychologist pointed to a phenomenon in humans, and yes, I believe one of the anger management counselors brought it up as well. The idea that people oftentimes will bottle their rage. Garfield the cat here, well, he could be bottling his anger inside, shoving it deep into his cat gut to ignore and deal with at a later time. Well, no, that's not exactly right. Garfield has already acted out. He's already stolen the pipe. He's smoking the pipe. He's already dealt with his anger. He's already lashed out, so psychologically, what is going on here? What is this cat doing, and how does it impact his owner, John Arbuckle, psychologically? Well, Garfield is angry. He's acting on his anger, but is this passive anger or aggressive anger? Passive. It is passive because if Garfield has a problem with John specifically, he's choosing a passive way of dealing with that problem. He's not confronted John and said, John, I have a problem with the way you've decorated this room. As a cat, I am colorblind, and this sends me into a rage. You've created a rage room for me here, and I don't like it. I want you to change it. Instead of that confrontational approach, though, Garfield has chosen to steal John's pipe. And that in turn angers John. But John decides to be aggressively angry and yell at Garfield. So now instead of a calm conversation between two respectful parties, you have two heated, angry individuals, each with a problem and no direct line to solving it. The layered emotions here tell a story with tight, focused brevity that would make Hemingway weep. This is an entire drama in just 3 panels, people.